Get,
Okay.
any thing you want to talk about today specifically? Any questions, concerns?
No,
No?
I, I'm good.
All right,
Yeah.
awesome. I thought I would talk today just a little bit about how to develop an effective weekly workout routine. Um,
Oh, nice.
things that kind of help us be more physically active. Just what kind of exercise they incorporate into our weekly routines, that sort of stuff. Um, so we all, I mean, hopefully by now we all understand the importance of regular exercise
Hmm.
for increased energy, better mood, improved metabolic health, right? Uh,
Hmm.
blood sugars, blood pressure, um, pain. I mean, there's just so many uh, different benefits to exercise that it really is the best form of medicine you can take, you know.
Hmm.
So then some people always kind of there's a question of should I do more cardio? Should I do more strength training? Should I do more yoga? What, you know, like there's so many different forms of exercise or types. And so I just kind of want to kind of talk about that a little bit and that to emphasize the importance of a well-rounded exercise routine.
Hmm.
Um, if we had to really choose of like, okay, I can only do one type of exercise or one type of workout, what is going to give me the most bang for my buck? I would have to say it's probably resistance training with the more of a high intensity interval kind of training approach. So then you're building muscle plus you're getting some cardiovascular because you're doing it, you know, uh, in intervals of like say a minute, 30 seconds to 2 minutes of just quick movements, working out, lifting, that gets your heart rate up. Then you go to the next exercise without much of a break in between.
Hmm.
Those can be pretty hard though, you know, because if you're not if you're new to exercise and you're not you know, you're just not in great physical condition, you're just starting out maybe. Those can be pretty tough routines to do. So it's
Hmm.
better to kind of start, you know, start where you're at and just kind of consistency is the key to anything, right? I mean,
Hmm.
if you do something all in, but it's short term and then you stop, I mean, you versus maybe you're not doing it quite as intensely or not quite as efficiently, but you stick with it over the long term, that's better than doing something all in and then you quit after a month, you know?
Right.
So as with anything in terms of health wise and really in life, I think consistency and um, perseverance are very important to
Hmm.
cultivate that. So just having the mindset that, you know, this is just a new way of life and this is just the new you and this is just a normal part of your daily routine is that you're an active person and you know, even if that's just going for walks or um, standing up and, you know, instead of sitting all day, you know, just different things that you can do like that. So,
Hmm.
but if I were to say, you know, one specific type of exercise is probably better than if you had to choose, then I would say probably the high intensity interval training kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But and that doesn't have to it doesn't have you don't have to work out every day for 2 hours a day, right? I mean, you can do 15 to 20 minutes of doing, you know, Dr. Willie and I've talked about this, just doing 15 to 20 minutes 2 or 3 times a week of resistance training where you're where you're working your muscles to the point of fatigue, where it's like,
Mhm.
you get that burn and you just can't do it any more reps.
Mhm.
That is huge because a lot of times we don't do that. We don't push ourselves to that point.
Mhm.
Um, we might do, okay, I'm going to do 10 reps and we do light enough weight to where we get through 10 and it was pretty easy, right?
Right.
So we want to kind of push ourselves to a point of fatigue or getting, really, really challenging ourselves. That's when you're going to see some muscle growth. Um,
Mhm.
but if you just kind of have to know your own limitations, and if you do that and then the next day or next few days you're just exhausted, then you probably push yourself too far, right?
Mhm.
Um, so then back it off and do less reps or more weight so that you don't have to, you know, fatigue yourself too much
Mhm.
in terms of how much exercise you're doing but so the heavier you go, the less reps you're going to do, and that's more of a strength or muscle building kind of a routine
Mhm.
versus lighter weight and more reps, then that's going to be more of a just more of a toning kind of fat burning kind of workout. So finding
Mhm.
and our bodies kind of adapt pretty quickly. So if we're doing the same exercises with the same weight every time we exercise, then our body's going to adapt pretty quick and it's not going to be that challenging. So we want to definitely kind of incorporate new exercises, the new routines into our weekly routine habits and things. So there's we want to try to incorporate some cardiovascular. And again, if you're doing high intensity interval training, that will definitely be cardiovascular exercise. You could do
Mhm.
walking, swimming, biking, different things like that, with the goal of getting your heart rate up, right? So where you're kind of breathing heavy, but you can still carry on a conversation. So uh,
Mhm.
and there's definitely things you can do to track your heart rate. So you can kind of figure out what's your max heart rate range. So you take 220 minus your age, and that tells us your max heart rate, generally. And then from there you can say, okay, I want to do 60 to 80% of my max heart rate. So then you take 220 minus your age, gives you a number. Um, we'll just kind of keep it simple, maybe. Let's say 220 minus, let's say you're 60, right?
Mhm.
220 minus 60 gives you a max heart rate of 160. And then I want to say, okay, I want my range, my target heart rate, I want it to be uh 60 to 80%. So 160 times that 0.8 would be 128 beats per minute would be the 80%. And then 160 times 0.6 would be 96. So that range would be 96 to 128 beats per minute is kind of that moderate intensity range. And that then you're strengthening your heart, you're helping with nitric oxide, um, you get those endorphins. And if you can do that for a sustained amount of time, say 10 minutes, 10 to 30 minutes at a time, then you're really seeing some cardiovascular benefit. And
Mhm.
so there is a difference. Like some people say, well, my job is pretty active and I walk a lot for my job and which is great, that's considered physical activity, but it's not necessarily considered exercise in terms of you're not getting your heart rate up unless you're maybe you're a firefighter, you're walking up hills carrying a heavy pack or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
Something like that. But if you're just kind of walking around the office, I mean, that's great, but you're not getting your heart rate up. So the goal is to get your heart rate up, to kind of stress your body, your heart, your
Mhm.
muscles to the point where then it releases those healthy cytokines. those chemical messengers that help increase blood flow. You're gonna push yourself enough to where your body has to adapt and um, adapt in a positive way. So cardiovascular is good. Strength training, like we mentioned, just building muscle, helping with metabolism. It helps with bone health, right? It helps keep your bones
Mhm.
strong. If you're doing weight bearing exercises, and resistance bands are a great option for those because they're compact, they're not super expensive. You can pretty
Mhm.
much take them with you if you're traveling or on vacation. You can take your little, a lot of times hotels have gyms
Jim.
anyway,
Yeah.
um, but if you don't have, like, if you don't want to spend 30 bucks, 30 to 50 bucks a month on a gym membership, you can just have some
Mhm.
exercise bands to do your resistance training, and then doing your cardiovascular stuff outside, or going for a walk up the hill, up and down hills, that kind of stuff. And then
Mhm.
I always like to do like what I do typically when on my workouts, I kind of alternate between resistance workouts one day and then cardiovascular on the other day. So
Yeah.
on my resistance training day, I'll do a little warm up. So about a 6 minute warm up where I'm doing running in place, jumping jacks, just up and burpees and jumps and kind of that kind of stuff to get my heart rate up, get my blood pumping, get warmed up a little. Then I go into my workout, and I usually do like a full body workout. So I'm doing our upper body and lower body kind of stuff, a mixture, some
Mhm.
abs, all that.
Mhm.
I'm done. I mean, I'm only working out for about a half hour, so it's not like
Mhm.
I'm doing this for 2 hours straight. I just get it done,
Okay.
I'm just kind of like, okay, I take a little, I probably take maybe a minute to a minute and a half break in between each set to give myself enough time to rest. And then I'm not going so heavy that, the heavier you go, the longer you have to rest because your
Mhm.
muscles have to recover. Otherwise,
Mhm.
you run the risk of injuring yourself because you're going too heavy and you might pull a muscle, or you definitely have to be also, you want to be aware that if you go too heavy, then your form is not going to be as good, and so
Right.
you really got to be just kind of, again, if you're new to it, just start easy, and just with the goal that you're going to gradually kind of push yourself and really work on the quality versus quantity at first.
Mhm.
And then that's my resistance training days, and then on my cardiovascular days, I'll just get on the treadmill, I put it at an incline, and then I run a mile, right? And when I'm
Mhm.
running that mile, I'm running maybe 6 miles an hour, and then for 30 seconds, I'll bump it up to 8 miles an hour, where I'm more kind of at a sprint. So then I'm kind of, as I'm doing this run, I'm
Mhm.
inclined, so that's increasing the intensity, and then I'm picking up the speed every so often just to push myself. So um,
Mhm.
most days I go for a walk. Usually take my dog for a walk. It's good for him
Yeah.
and me.
Yeah.
And we have some hills in our neighborhood, so that's good. I'm getting some some incline and things. But the walks are not really, I'm not really breathing hard. I try
Mhm.
to I walk at a decent pace, but I'm not like sprint walking or anything like that. So that's more of a just to get the just kind of more of a mental health exercise kind of thing. It's a good stress reliever for me, and um,
Mhm.
just don't want to go home and just sit down and kind of veg out.
Right. Right.
I mean, and that's what's hard too, right? Like, um, like if you're still employed, and depending on what kind of job you have, if it's more of a physical job, then you may be like, that's the last thing I want to do is go home and then go for a walk when I've been walking all day. But
Mhm.
my job's more more sedentary, more cognitive, right? More thinking. So then
Mhm.
by the end of the day, my brain is just shot, right? And I just like I
Um,
just need to physically go do something and not have to think about anything, you know. And so just kind
Yeah.
of adapt to whatever your lifestyle is. If you're retired, which you know you have the
Yeah.
blessing to be retired, right?
Uh-huh.
Then it becomes more of a scheduling, just again making that a priority to say, okay, you may have to schedule it so that you'll do it. Like okay, every morning I get up and I go do some uh either some resistance training or cardiovascular training in the morning, and then maybe go for an afternoon walk, whatever your routine is. Or if you have
Mhm.
a group of friends that that exercise, then that's another great
Mhm.
way of getting that social interaction and exercise. I know your church does that, which is, I think it's awesome because,
Yeah.
that incorporates that social dynamic to exercise and helps keep you motivated and engaged, right? So,
Hmm.
um, try to incorporate a little bit of flexibility, mobility into your weekly routine as well. I usually will stretch after most resistance workouts. When my muscles are warm and I'm tired, then I do some stretching to
Hmm.
kind of help maintain my mobility. I like I've done yoga in the past. I don't typically do it very often, but that could be more of a what you would call an active recovery day, so to speak. Well, some
Hmm.
yoga is pretty challenging. I mean, depending on
Hmm.
what kind of yoga you do, right? But
Hmm.
yoga is a very good stretching and core strengthening type of exercise. And then
Hmm.
just being okay with, understanding you need some rest and recovery in between, so that if you're pushing yourself too hard to where you're like the next day you're just wiped out and you are too sore to do anything, then you pushed it too hard and you need to just have a little bit of a recovery day. So, and that's where just going for a casual stroll or a casual walk could be helpful in terms of just helping get the blood pumping, but not overexerting yourself.
Hmm.
Um, So, of course, with all this, right, you make sure you're drinking plenty of water, things like that, healthy diet, because this is all, as we've kind of talked about in programs, they're each of the components by themselves aren't gonna work. You have to have you have to have every component um, that you're working on to find that optimal balance and just overall optimal health, I guess, right? So
Yeah.
um so yeah, but again, kind of when you are working on figuring out what is your weekly routine, just figuring out what are your goals, and then tailoring that your workouts to your goals. So if you're looking, you want to build more muscle, then you want to try to go a bit more heavier weights,
Hmm.
with less cardio in there. If you're wanting to be more weight loss, then you might kind of do a 50-50 kind of thing, cardio and resistance training kind of stuff. Uh,
Hmm.
but it's really important to maintain your muscle as we get older, because that's
Yeah.
really gonna contribute to our overall long-term health. So,
Hmm.
um, and again, figure out how often can you exercise. Ideally, if I hope we're all doing something physically active every day. Uh,
Hmm.
but if you say, "Oh, I'm going to work out every single day," you may get burned out, and then you're just going to quit. And so figure out what's sustainable for you, what's really doable for you, and something that you can do
Hmm.
long term. And again, make sure that it's you know, things that you enjoy if you can, right? I mean, um, if you maybe I don't know if the things that you enjoy that are more physical, like I know a lot of people getting into like pickleball or um, going to exercise classes together, that kind of stuff. Dance, there's like the Zumba stuff, different dance
Mm-hmm.
exercise classes, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you can find other people that are doing it with you, that would do it with you to keep you accountable to, then that always helps. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I think the important thing is, like I said, is being consistent. Is just if you have a day where you're like, oh, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to exercise nothing. That's okay. But the next day, say, okay, well, I got to get back to my routine. Get back to my schedule here, so that you don't just kind of fall into that habit of
Mm-hmm.
just going back to being sedentary. And some people are never sedentary, right? They've lived like their whole life, they've just been busy, 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 go, go, go. So they may need to be like, okay, I need to back off a little bit here and just kind of learn to relax a little. And then other people may be more sedentary where they're just kind of like, they really have to push themselves to be active. And so,
Mm-hmm.
figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are and then adapt to those as necessary. But the main thing is to stay on the path, keep at it. So,
Right on.
you have any thoughts, comments?
I do a HIIT program, 30 on, 30 off, 3 times a week, and then the other 3 days hike about 3 miles. Um, I do ladders or sprints across the street with the dogs before my workout on the workout days, so that gets my heart rate going. And Sunday I take off because I'm usually pretty doing a lot of stuff, but it's worked out really well, and the HIIT program that I do is total body. So um I'm not bored with it yet. I started incorporating like a cardio X from P90X into it on Wednesdays, switched through a whole different, because mine are usually half an hour, but this one's almost 45 minutes. So,
A
yeah,
little longer and more intense, maybe.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What with your hit, is that something is that a program that you find online, or how do you like, is it the same exercise every time? Is it the same routine every time?
It is. Yeah. It's Tom Holland is the guy's name, and it's some CDs that we got probably 25 years ago when we got P90X.
Oh, okay.
You're right. But so I usually up my weights, then up my reps, up my weights, up my reps. So but yeah, it's the one I feel like it gets all of me.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not bored with it yet. I've been doing it for a couple months now. So yeah, and it seems to get the job done because it kicks my tail.
Yeah.
You know?
Challenges, good. Well, that's, again, we want to be, we got to find that right range there of where we're being challenged, but not too much to overwhelm us. But
Yeah. Yeah, we I'm still able to get up on the alternate days, and hike 3 miles with the dogs. And yeah, so I know my limitations as being a 64-year-old woman, and I don't need to do that. I need to maintain so I can get cans off the shelves and
yeah,
stuff like that. But I'm not going to be in any competitive bodybuilding sports, so I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. And there are people that are, in their sixties that they want to be competitive bodybuilders, and
Yeah.
that's fine. Everybody has a different goal, and uh,
Hmm.
just kind of knowing what is your goal. And it sounds like you're more of that practical, like I just want to be able to do my daily activities of living without getting hurt or
Yeah.
without, being in pain or anything like that, and just be able to function
Hmm.
day to day, right?
Yeah, and to be able to take off and sprint, I mean to be able to run or to physically exert myself. I make sure that my heart beats up and I get out of breath, but yeah, I think just maintaining and not getting too crazy with myself.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and I think good to kind of maybe, which is nice. Now there's tons of different apps that can actually
Mhm.
create different workouts. I use one that is nice because I just put in there, I put in there what equipment I have. I put in how long I want to work out for. Do I want like full body, or do I want to, well, like split it up into upper, lower, that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
it will create a workout for me every day. And so then I don't have to think too much about it. I just go and I just follow it and do my workout, and then I'm done. And because I kind of, if I used to not do that. I used to be like, I would try to think of what I needed to do, but then I would just fall into the habit of, I'm just going to do this. I just did the same thing over and over again. So,
Mhm.
um, it's good to try change it up a bit, maybe every, monthly or every couple months to try to incorporate a new type of workout or new routine in there, just so that you don't get too comfortable or we plateau pretty quickly, and so,
Okay.
but it's good that you're increasing the weight so that you're challenging yourself. You're not doing the same weight every time. So that's always
Yeah.
good too, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. So keep at it. Good job. So,
Thanks.
yeah, that's the goal is if you want to live to be 100, right? You gotta,
Right.
you gotta keep moving. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Gosh, it's true. You don't use it, you lose it.
yeah, yeah. So,
Mhm.
and the worst thing I think is, just you you live a long time, but you don't have a great quality of life. I think we all want that good, high quality of life, right? We don't want to
Mhm.
be aging and suffering and not feeling good. So do what you
Yeah.
can. So,
Yep. Right on.
cool. Well, thanks for joining me again. I appreciate you getting on here.
Sure.
And
Sure.
yeah, so, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Right on. Thanks, Wiley.
Yeah, have a good day, Sherry.
You too. Bye.
All right, bye.